Hello, gorgeous people. Thank you for joining me for this free video training. It's going to be a very relaxed time that we spend together. I have my tea here and I will be stopping to take regular sips of it. And this is probably going to run for only around 20 minutes of your time, but I hope that it's going to be really, really valuable for you. So, if you don't know me already, my name is Emma Rose, and I am a life coach. I help individuals to find freedom through the work that they do in the world because I believe that at our purest level, all we are all craving is a sense of personal freedom. And I believe that you can get that through your work. So it's not always been this way. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why I was so called to do this work. The reason for that is because I spent nearly a decade working in an office in financial services in a job that it just was, do you know what? It was fine. It was fine because the people were nice and it was local to me and the pay wasn't too bad. And, you know, we got dressed down Fridays and sometimes we got free fruit. You know, it had all the things that should have meant that it was a great place to work. And you know what? It was a great place to work. But that didn't stop me from feeling like it was killing me by going there every day. And that was part of the trap for me, is like it was almost good enough to stay. There was no particular reason for it to feel so difficult for me, but it did. And without sounding too dramatic, I felt like it was destroying my soul. Perhaps that does sound dramatic, but I think that if you're in that situation right now, then you'll know what I mean. It's that sense of being very, very trapped, very stuck, very uninspired, bored, feeling like, is this really all there is to life? Is this what I have to do for the next, depending on how old you are, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years? I just could not face that being the reality of my future. And what I come to realize now is that feeling of that soul destroying, terrible, dramatic feeling. Now I think of that feeling as the feeling of my dream being killed, the feeling of my dream slowly dying inside me. I didn't promise not to be dramatic. But if you're feeling that right now, then I just firstly want to say to you that you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. Many, many people feel like this. It isn't perhaps something that we always talk about, and especially in Western society, we're extremely privileged and we don't want to seem ungrateful. If we have steady jobs and steady income in a good company with decent pay, then why should we want any more? What makes us special? Well, I believe that we are all so special. I believe that you are completely unique and completely within your rights. Not only within your right, not only within your right to have work that you love, but I actually believe that it's necessary for us as individuals to do work that we love so that we shift the experience that we have as humans on this planet. I see big problems with the current system of go to school, go to university, go through the drudgery of that process. And for some people it isn't. Some people excel in those environments, but most people don't. And if you're one of them, then I'm really glad that you're here, because I hope that this message today will inspire you to create change in your life. So that's a little bit about me and what I do and what I believe. And now I want to talk to you about the real problem. So It isn't money. It isn't not knowing what you want to do. As much as you may think it is, they were the two big ones for me. I thought, I don't have enough money to take a career break. I don't have enough money to go to university for what will be 5 years, because I'll have to do it part-time. I'm too old. You know, I was too old to go retrain to university, but I felt too young to do other things I wanted to do. All these ideas, they're not really real, but they feel extremely real. And so, yeah, I'm here to tell you, no matter what you believe right now about it being about any of those things that are swirling around your mind, it's actually probably at its core about something very different, something perhaps you haven't thought about before. And the first one is conformity. So I mentioned the school system, and you know, we from 5 years old, most of us go into schools, and the way that system has been set up is they teach us how to conform. They teach us how to do as we're told, and they teach us a very limited amount of things that someone else has decided are the most important, not the things that we have decided are most important to us, or the things we love, or the things that we're particularly good at. Because I believe every individual has things that they are wonderful at, and they're usually the things that you love to do, but you don't get to do them, you don't get to practice them. And that's a real shame, because they say that to become a master at something, I think you have to do 10,000 hours of practice or study in that area, and that's what creates mastery. And so, you know, what a shame if you're an incredible artist or a creative person, a musician, you know, anything really. It doesn't just have to be the creative fields, but generally they're the ones that aren't focused on as much in school. Imagine if you had 10,000 hours worth of practice through your schooling, how different your life might be. But you don't, and I find that dreadfully sad. But I want to talk to you about conformity nonetheless, because you learn it at that age. You learn it from 5 years old when you go to school, and you progress through school, and it becomes clearer and clearer to you of what's important: English, math, science, probably now IT or technology of some kind. It wasn't that when I was at school, but it probably is now. And the things that weren't so important, you know, the ones. So you learn this through school, but you also learn it through society as a whole, because you learn it from your parents, and they're doing their best to protect you and give you the best chance in life. They're doing what they were taught, and they love you, and they, you know, this is in no way to blame them, but when you are 6 years old and you say that you want to be an astronaut, then instead of encouraging you and giving you the opportunity to explore what you might need to learn in order to fulfill that dream, and that dream that you have at 6 years old is it's very special, it's very important. It's probably the truest expression of what you want to do, because you have none of this conditioning that you now have as an adult. But when you say that to adults who have been conditioned through that process, the likelihood is that they think it's sweet, or maybe they laugh at you, or maybe they just don't take you seriously in some way. They think it's a passing phase, or mostly they think that it's unrealistic. But why? Some people have to be astronauts. Why could it not be you? And so this happens, and this conformity, we learn it, and then as we learn it, and it becomes not just something we're told, but it becomes a part of us. It becomes our own truth to a certain extent, and we take it and we believe it. And once it becomes a belief, it's very hard to. Beliefs are sticky things. They take a lot of time to create, so they also then take a lot of time to dismantle. And what that feels like and looks like as an adult is settling in a job, conforming to the experience of 9 to 5 work, 35 or 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. we settle because it's what we've been taught. And the reason that we've been taught it is because we believe that it will give us security, or safety is another word. And this security and this safety that we create through conforming and through settling and through essentially giving up on our 6-year-old selves' dreams is really driven by fear of what will happen if we don't have that safety net, if we don't have that security. We don't really know the answer to that. It's fear of the unknown. Well, if I don't do a 9-to-5 job, if I don't earn this annual salary, if I don't do these things that everyone is telling me, that everyone around me is doing, then what will I do? Because mostly we've forgotten the 6-year-old dream that we had. Many of us don't even know what that dream was anymore. We've buried it deeply under layers and layers of the conditioning over years. Well, let me say now, it doesn't keep you safe. It doesn't. It keeps you stuck. And the feeling of stuckness is the one that we'll know that feeling. And so that's where it comes from. And I want you to just think about, reflect upon how that conformity has looked in your own life. If you don't have a pen and paper, now might be the time to go and grab one while I sip my tea. Because I want you to reflect upon whether you can dig down and remember the 6-year-old dream you had, or the 5-year-old dream, or the 8-year-old's dream, that version of you. What did you dream about? What did you imagine? Or what kind of scenarios were you playing in your pretend games? You know, we had incredible imaginations as children, and a lot of the clues of our genius are hidden in those memories. And I would encourage you to spend a little bit of time unlocking those. So if you did get a pen and paper, or you're taking notes, or you're taking notes in your head, you don't have to do it in any particular way. It's just to jot down a little note to remind yourself to reflect upon what you believed in at that age, what you loved. You might want to ask a parent or someone who knew you at that age, see if they can help break that memory free. And then you might want to spend a little bit of time after that considering where this conformity started for you. When did that happen? Can you see the pattern? Can you see, were there particular moments where that dream started to be buried within you? Just having awareness and reflecting on these can help us unlock so much of the goodness inside of us. So if you're one of those people who says you don't know what you want to do, then this is an exercise for you that could be of benefit. And the second thing I want to talk about is self-worth and self-love, because it took me 10 years of working in a job that I didn't like. As I said, this was for the same company. I joined there when I was just 19 years old and left after 10 years, 29, a whole decade of my life, my whole of my 20s was spent in this job. And when I look back now, I didn't realize this at the time, but one of the things that stopped me from going and doing something different was a real deeply ingrained lack of self-worth, which is hard to say because, you know, I'm human. I'm working through this now. I'll be working through it in another 10 years because that is what we do as human beings. We We judge ourselves so much more harshly than we would ever judge anybody else, and we speak to ourselves in the worst ways that we would never dream of saying to a friend or anybody, in fact. And I want to encourage you today to begin understanding where your level of self-worth is right now, because if you've been making excuses as to why you're not following your dreams, like you don't know what they are, or you're too old, or you don't have enough money, or anything else, I want you to just put those to the side for a moment. They're very real. You can come back to them. Of course, you will have to address them at some point. But I just want you to go slightly deeper and ask yourself, do you believe you're worthy? Do you believe that you are good enough to have a different life, a happier life, a life that you love, a life you're proud of? Do you believe that you're capable of stepping outside of that conformity that feels like safety? Are you scared of it because you wonder who you'll be if you're not the person who is who you are now? And the third thing I want to tell you is that I spent a lot of time over those 10 years talking to the same people about the same problem I was having, in that I didn't like my job and I didn't know what to do, and it was killing me, basically. And I was talking to friends, partners, my parents, and I was telling the same story over and over again. Someone would say to me, "How's work?" And I would launch into this almost script that I had created for myself, where I would tell them all the things that made it so hard, all the excuses, all of the fear. I let it spew up and out of me. And then one day I posted in a Facebook group about it. I was at my wit's end. I just didn't know what to do anymore. I knew I couldn't do this job anymore, but I was so trapped, so trapped. And in desperation, I posted in a Facebook group, and a woman replied, and she sent me a lovely comment, sending me some nice words and some kindness. And then she proceeded to launch into her own version. She felt the same. She shared her own version, and just as I was about to reply to her, and my own version again, my own script, my own story that I had been telling myself and others for years and years started to bubble up inside me, and about to be written into this comment to this stranger in a Facebook group. And it was in that moment that I felt it. I felt the story within me. And I thought, hold on a second. If I can feel, if I can sense this story, if I can become aware of this story, then this story isn't me. It's something else. Because how could it be me? Because the me is perceiving it. And I realized in that moment that it was just a story, and it was a story that was in fact killing my dream and keeping me trapped and stuck. And someone that I respect very much, Derren Brown, he is a famous magician, and in the UK here, Google him if you haven't heard of him. He's incredible. He talks about how the stories we tell ourselves affect our lives, and they truly do. And in that moment I saw it with, it's like a flash of total clarity that just burned through my vision. And I realized that I didn't need to keep telling that story anymore. And so I started telling a different story. The story I started telling was, I value myself enough to take my concerns seriously. And I started telling myself a story of, I want to help people. I want to do meaningful work, and I'm going to take steps towards investigating what that might be. And the story I started telling myself was, yes, I might not know how I'm going to afford this, but I will find a way. And through those stories, I did. And now I'm sitting here and I'm telling you this because I want you to be free. I want you to be free, and I promise you that it is possible for anyone. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but is it easy to stay in this job, this life that you don't love? No, it isn't. It's very challenging. So you might as well, if you're going to experience suffering and challenging, you might as well be doing it for a life that feels free and that you love. Okay, well, I hope this video has helped you. I would love to know what you took away from it. And so please let me know. Let me know. Send me an email. All of my details will be somewhere on this page. You can find them, or you can go to my website, which is www.IamEmmaRose.com. Okay, here is to your freedom. Thank you for watching.